However, because of some possible misinformation, I'm going to hand the microphone over to a colleague from our last show who wants to update any listeners who might still be expecting that show to continue.
Yeah, hi guys, this is Zaid Shah, part of the Z Squared show, which was miscommunicated from 4 till 5. It's actually 3 till 4. So, from next week, for the next 3 weeks during Ramadan, Zaid Ali and myself, Zaid Shah, will be on from 3 till 4. Back to Raj, and hopefully, you learn some excellent IT skills. God bless.
Thank you very much, Zahid. My name is Rajiv Danjal. I'm an IT specialist and have been for many, many years. And I've been invited onto this show because I run a program called Plugged In IT Skills for Everyone. And this is my second year running the show. So, as I say, I've been in IT for an awfully long time. I used to work I've got a degree in computer engineering. I've also got a degree in computer science, lasting over the last 40 or so years. I've spent 5 years working at British Telecom. I've spent 12 years working at IBM, and I've spent 19 years working at the University of Wolverhampton. So I've got a broad range of skills, but one of my, I'd like to think, best attributes is the fact that I speak slowly, try and give people a chance to understand what I'm trying to say, and in the hope that if I speak slow enough, they will understand. I do a lot of analogies, so I do hope that I don't go over people's heads. I do hope that people will understand what I'm saying. So last year I didn't um, have any phone-ins. This year I'm quite happy to take phone-ins and WhatsApp messages from anybody who has any questions. And the reason for that is because I also have in the libraries around Wolverhampton, I have a um, drop-in service where if anybody has any questions about IT, if they want a face-to-face explanation of anything, if they've got problems with their phone, how do I book NHS medicines, how do I find this piece of information out, how do I, whatever you want to do and that you're struggling with, please come along. You can find me in on a Tuesday morning. You can find me at the Wensfield Library from 10:30 till 12:30. So that's East Wolverhampton. If you are in West Wolverhampton, you can go to the Warstones Library on a Tuesday afternoon from 2:30 to 4:30. On a Wednesday, yesterday, you can find me in the morning at the Bob Jones Community Hub, possibly also known as the Blakenhall Library. So that's again 10:30 till 12:30. And then on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday afternoon, should I say, you can find me at the Whitmoreens Library, again from 2:30 to 4:30. The service is provided through my volunteering as a Secret Angel. Secret Angels is a Wolverhampton-based charity. I'm just going to say a few words about it now, but I have another show which airs on a Monday. All the details are the same. It's in two parts. The first part is where I'll be talking about the Secret Angels and what we offer as a charity. We've got three people running the charity, and we do lots and lots of services. The first person, our main founder of the Secret Angels, is a lady called Alvina Ali. If you stay on for the second half of this hour, she'll be presenting a show. She'll be presenting her own show. We've got myself, the Director of Digital Inclusion, so I can help with bringing the message of IT out to everybody at our libraries, and in some cases the council gives us hardware or even SIMs to get internet access for people who don't really have anything. As I say, this is something that we do, and it was started by the council during the COVID-19 period, where you may remember that there were people who were completely isolated because they either didn't have the equipment or they didn't know how to use it. So um, the council started many initiatives, including ourselves. So over the last few years, I've been setting up free equipment for people, setting up their internet access, and helping them to stay connected with the people that they need to stay connected to. So listen in on Monday, listen in at 4 o'clock to 4:30, where I'll be talking about the secret angels and what we do. And in the second half of that hour, the second half hour, should I say, I'll be beginning to talk about IT as well. Just a quick reminder: this is Iman One, a radio station whose name has only started from this year, and last year it was called Ramadan Radio. Ramadan Radio. Iman One is on DAB, digital audio broadcasting, across Wolverhampton, Walsall, and beyond. If you want to look at our website, we're on www.iman-one.com. So that's spelled IMAAN hyphen ONE.com, which is COM. So you can find our website at that web address. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram and on YouTube. If you want to send me a message, WhatsApp messages can be sent to 07440 420 432. Okay, so that's 07440 420 432. Those of you looking at our live streams, which are on YouTube, you can probably see my face and you can see the poster behind me, and on that poster is most of the information that I've given out to the listening audience. Last year we, as in Ramadan Radio, we broadcast during the period of Ramadan. However, Iman One, the renamed radio station, is actually running 24/7, as in, and all year round. Okay, so that hopefully gives you the details about who we are, who this radio station is. The reason I've mentioned Ramadan Radio a couple of times now, our previous name, is because if you go onto YouTube and you type in Ramadan Radio Wolves, IT plugged in, there you should be able to find my shows from last year. So they're an hour long with an advert in the middle, and there should be 4 of them. So I don't want to repeat all of the things that I said last year, but because I'm quite prepared to take phone calls, maybe not today, but maybe certainly from next week, have a think about what's on your mind, what you'd like to know about, what you'd like to discuss, and I'm going to try and get some people to come into our studio so we can have a live face-to-face conversation about IT, because IT is just getting bigger and stronger, and a lot of people are worried about losing their jobs because of AI. Will AI really make it easy for everybody, or will it destroy people's lives? So that's something that we weren't talking about last year, but we can certainly talk about this year. And anything else that's on people's minds. If you want to go far into the future, then you can do that. If you want to talk about the old days and how did we ever manage without the internet, how did we ever manage, if anybody wants to reminisce, you're more than happy to do that as well. Okay, so go onto YouTube and type in Ramadan Radio Wolverhampton IT, or IT skills, or plugged in, or you could even try my name, which is Rajiv Danjal, RAJIV Danjal, DHANJAL. Okay, so that's a little bit about the work I do in libraries, a little bit of information about the secret angels and what we do, and a little bit of information about what we did last year. And myself, as I say, I think I've already repeated it to on the previous show, but I've got quite a lot of experience in IT, so I've done all manner of things. Okay, so that's that was my 24 minutes of talking squashed into 10. So in other words, I've got another um, about 14 minutes of time. So you know what, I'm happy to take a call if anybody wants to call in. Um, the telephone number, the WhatsApp number is 07440 420 430. If anybody doesn't want to speak to me but just wants to send me a WhatsApp message, and then if you actually want to phone our studio, the telephone number is 01902 972150. So while we're waiting, in case anybody does want to call, one thing I did say last year is this show is going to be presented only in English. Not because um, I'm a Punjabi, not because my Punjabi language isn't good enough, but so much that happens in the world of IT, of the internet, the equipment that people use. We probably don't have equivalent words for those concepts in the other languages that people might want to discuss in. So, for example, I don't know what the Punjabi or Urdu word is for the internet, probably because when those languages were invented or created, these concepts didn't exist. Computer networking didn't exist. CPU didn't exist. Gigabytes of memory didn't exist. So these words do not have equivalent translations, and therefore, and of course, if you want help with somebody else from somebody else, they're more likely to understand these. What I'm going to suggest is universal words. They might not be universal in 100 years' time, but maybe certainly now these are the words for the internet. One thing I'll say whilst I'm filling in the time is that for anybody who's ever heard of something called ASCII, ASCII, okay, ASCII, it stands for the American Symbolic Code for Information Exchange, and it's like an alphabet, okay, like an alphabet. So just like when you send information, or you've got an email address, or you've got the names of files, there are certain characters you can use and certain characters you can't use. Okay, so for example, nice and easy, if you've got an email address, let's say your name is Bob Jones, which is the name of our library in South Wolverhampton. If your name is Bob Jones, you could have an email address of bobjones@gmail.com. What you can't do is you can't have an email address of bob@jones@gmail.com. That at sign is a special sign to separate the name from the server, and likewise there's a whole bunch of names, there's a whole bunch of characters that you can use, and a whole bunch of characters that you can't use. Okay, this is less so in the case of passwords. With passwords you have a lot more choice. So again, if you listen to one of my shows where I talked about security, about strong passwords, you can use these strange characters. So for example, if you've got an internet address, you can't have a forward slash or a backslash in the early part of the internet address, but you can in the second part of the internet address. And there are no equivalences in other languages for these things. So this is the reason why we have to stick to the English language to discuss IT, and this is the reason why, as I say, because there are no equivalents, there is no alternative. However, something new has happened in recent years. The first part of an internet address can actually now be in a different language. Okay, can be in a different language, but the main domain, the .com, the .co.uk, the .info, there are so many more that have been released over the last few years that there are a lot more choices for people who want to either create their own websites, or for people who think, you know what, I'm going to just buy a name and maybe build a website later. These are things that I'm hoping to get an expert to come in and talk about. So I'm not going to say too much about internet websites, but this is something that I'm going to get an old colleague of mine to come in and talk about. So in a future show, if you're a business person or if there's any reason why you want to have your own website, we'll be talking about that. It's kind of easy to get a web presence. You can get yourself a web presence on Facebook or internet or the Instagram or YouTube. You can build yourself a channel quite easily. But if you really want to be professional, then you do need to have your own website, and we'll be talking about websites, as I say, in the forthcoming shows. I'm going to ask the deck presenter now. Has anybody sent anything yet? No? Okay then. Not a problem in the slightest. Not a problem in the slightest at all. We've got another around about 10 minutes. Oh, no, 8 minutes. I think we've got about 8 minutes. So let me tell you more about myself, or actually let me tell you about some of the problems people are coming out with at the libraries. And the biggest problem people are coming out in the libraries is because because my drop-in sessions are in the daytime. It's mostly people who have retired or people who are not working for some reason, and the biggest problems I get these days is, oh, how do I get into this? Okay, I'll say to them, right, you're going to need your password, and hardly anybody seems to know their password. Now, in the old days, that made it very, very difficult to recover your password because there was no other way to prove who you are. So one thing I will say to everybody out there listening, please find out your passwords for all the systems you have access to. Now I'm an IT professional. I've got access to, or over the years I've had access to many systems, and I'm not allowed to forget my passwords, and I'm not really allowed to use simple passwords because, for example, there might be a simple website, not very well managed. They ask you to set up a user ID and a password, and you may well set your user ID as your email address, and you'll set your password as the same password you use for everyone else. The only problem is if it's a very simple website, not very well maintained, they could get hacked easily because they're not robust enough. And if you make the password for that website the same as something very, very important, you've basically given away your important information. So please keep your passwords known to yourselves. Make sure nobody can easily get to them, particularly if they're your banking passwords or something important, or your NHS login, for example. Anything that's important, anything that you don't want to lose, please make sure your passwords are protected. Another thing happened only yesterday. We were at a library. A lady had her phone picked up. And she'd come to me because she wanted to save all the photos off her phone onto a USB stick. But it turned out that she had many gigabytes worth of photographs, and she only had a 1 gigabyte USB stick with her. So I said, okay, not a problem, buy yourself some more USB sticks, or buy yourself a bigger USB stick, come back next week and we'll transfer them for you. However, something potentially disastrous happened, or nearly happened. Couldn't find her phone. Somebody had picked it up, and the audacity of it, they'd hidden it behind some books, turned the volume down and hidden it behind some books. So she of course knew her own telephone number, and we rang it and we rang it and we rang it, and we couldn't hear it because this dastardly person didn't want to be seen and be stopped and have that phone in their pocket. They were probably going to come back the next day to pick that phone up. As it happened, they hadn't fully turned the sound down completely. As it happened, you could faintly hear it, and as the other people in the library left, and it became quieter and quieter and quieter in the library, I could very faintly hear something, but I just couldn't tell where it was. So we kept ringing, and as it went quiet, I could hear that phone ringing. And as I say, we found it behind some children's books. Now, somebody had put it there on purpose. So you've got to be really careful when you don't even know your own password. You don't know, and if you did know your own password, you could use the Find My Phone facility. And with your Find My Phone facility, we would have known straight away that it was at that library. But of course, the lady did not know her password. So although she knew her email address, she did not know her password. Fortunately, these bad people hadn't actually turned the phone off, because that's what a lot of people will do. The first thing they will do is they'll turn the phone off. Or the first thing they might do is put the phone into flight mode. And when it's in flight mode, people think that, oh right, then now it can't be found. But under some situations it can still be found. So the next couple of minutes, I think I've only got before the end of this show. I've got about 2 minutes left. So today I haven't said very much other than what I did last year on the show, and a little bit about what's happening in the libraries at the moment. Your phone is so important now. It's so important. You've got to look after it. You've got to make sure that you know the details of your email address logins, because you can always log into most email addresses from a computer, but you need to know your password. You need to have some sort of what we call multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication means a second way to prove yourself, and a second way to prove yourself for an email address is normally a phone. But if you've lost your phone and you don't know your email address, you are in a major problem. So please make sure you have other types of multi-factor authentication, like your children's or your family's email addresses or their telephone numbers, so that at least you are not completely cut off, because I pray that doesn't happen to you. It's disastrous if that happens to you and you've got no other mechanism of finding your equipment, because people's lives now live in their mobile phones. Okay, so I've got about 1 minute left. That was the problem, one of the problems we had yesterday, and other people, as I say, they are terrified of IT. They think they're going to, particularly the elderly, they are so terrified that they're going to break something, that if you are in our vicinity, in the vicinity of Wolverhampton, then please do come along and see me at these libraries. You can also go to the Central Library. I'm not there, but on a Thursday morning the Central Library teaches IT skills, and of course there are other ways to learn IT, but as I say, I offer a free service. I offer a face-to-face service on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and on a Thursday I oh, into my mic. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I went a bit too far away from my mic. So yep, we've got 30 seconds left, so I look forward to the shows. My next show, as I say, is on a Monday at 4 p.m, where I will be first talking about the Secret Angels, and the second part will be talking about IT skills. So I look forward to being with you then. Thank you.